شفناه طيران ينزل ضرب فسفور ابيض، دخان ابيض ينزل من الطيار، دخان ابيض وبالارض تصير نار.
الطيران الامريكي ب 2015 سدد ضربه عليه، قسم الجسر نصفين.
American air forces attacked and destroyed these two military sheds.
هذا السطح مات عليه طفل، شايف هذيك الضربه؟ هذا السطح مات عليه طفل، وهذا السطح مات عليه أماية وبنات اثنين.
And you know, my friends who died, they have children, and now there are orphans.
We left Damascus almost 3 hours ago, and in spite of having high speed and covering a long distance almost in these 3 hours, I hardly found 1 or 2 residential areas in this path, the path from Damascus towards east of Syria. If you take the path of north, from Damascus towards north, the residential areas are almost connected to each other. But this low demographical value of eastern Syria does not mean that's not important. Nowadays, news are not coming almost from other parts of Syria except the eastern part of Syria. Not the news of conflict with the members of ISIS, but the news of conflict with the American forces who are based in different bases in eastern Syria. We are heading towards East Syria now.
Out of 750 overseas US military bases, almost 50 are in West Asia or the Middle East, including 12 in Syria, the highest number among all countries in the region. The US-led coalition launched its military campaign in the Arab country in August 2014 on the pretext of fighting ISIS after the terrorist group captured vast swathes of eastern Syria.
During our way towards the eastern part of Syria, we just arrived to the historical city of Palmyra, and we are just at the entrance of the city. And here is something really shocking: the board of Palmyra Palace Hotel and Spa. Come and see what is the condition of this hotel currently. Yeah, that is the Palmyra Palace Hotel. This is one of those places destroyed totally by Daesh, ISIS. Once upon a time, foreign tourists from European countries, from North American countries, they used to come to the city. They used to participate in the festivals and events, cultural events taking place in the city. And now, nothing has remained. Everything has been destroyed by Daesh. And the city just behind me is almost a dead city, a silent city. No one else is now living there. This castle and the city was captured by Daesh, ISIS, and it was destroyed by TNT, C4, and nothing has remained. The city is also almost silent now. No one is living there. People are trying to come back, and now it's secure, of course, but maybe when the Western countries were supporting the overthrow of the Bashar government, the Syrian government, they were not thinking that something like this may take place.
There is no precise figure for people killed or wounded by American forces in the Devastation region over the past more than 2 decades. Hundreds of thousands have perished in American air raids, drone attacks, and ground operations, while US war crimes in remote areas of the country, especially in eastern Syria, have received less coverage due to restricted access. We had the chance to visit those areas.
السلام عليكم. رمضان كريم. كيف انتم بخير؟ السلام عليكم. حيا بكم.
انقصت راحت مجزرة كبيرة
مجزرة جامع عمر، سيدنا عمر راح بها يعني ضربة
اليوم ما عرفوا ما لقوهم
حد الآن. أول ضربة صارت وظلت الطياره بجوجت العالم تسعف هذول، صارت عشقة ناس هيك وضربوهم صاروخ ثاني. بادوا أمة لا إله إلا الله به، بادوا شيء 200 شخص راحوا بها ضربة واحدة.
بأي سنة؟
والله بالضبط ما بس اتوقع بال 2016
16 200 شخص.
تقريبا بال 200 شخص. في ناس لليوم اهلهم ما يندلون،
ما يعرفونهم راحوا.
تقطع. بيعدنا هين بيتين ابن عمي هين قصفوه.
ابن عمك قصفوه؟ امريكان قصفوه؟
اي نعم صغار، بس احنا ما كنا يعني طلعنا النازحين.
نعم هي قصفوه وقتلوا هي قصفوا بيت على اساس انه بحشد حشد عراقي، والحشد ما بفاضي.
I was talking to these civilians who are living here just next to the Abu Kamal crossing border, and they were telling me stories about the massacres that took place during the attacks of the American forces, American air forces. هذا بيت ابن عمك، فضلتهم ابن عمك قصفوا بيته صح؟ ممكن نشوف البيت؟
في بيتين.
هذا البيت صح؟
هذا البيت. بس هذا هو الانقاض كلها طبعا.
ايوه.
شايف هاي اثار؟
نظفتهم تعال عارف.
هذا اثار الصاروخ.
This house belongs to his cousin, and which was destroyed last year, as he says, by a strike of an American fighter. And this is the place that rocket hit this building. It was a two-story building, and now they have collected the debris of this destroyed house. But he says that every other time our villages, our places are being targeted by American fighters, by missiles, and by possibly drones, because they may not be able to detect what exactly is the source of that rocket or missile. تعرفون كم عدد استشهد هون؟ استشهد شخص أم لا؟
هون ما استشهد شيء، بس بالبيت الثاني ذاك استشهد مرأة وأطفالها. هذا كله ده كانت الدنيا صيف، والعالم وين نايمة فوق السطوح. العالم نايمة فوق السطح. الصيف الماضي العالم نايمة وين؟ فوق السطح. هذا السطح مات عليه طفل. شايف هذيك الضربة؟ هذا السطح مات عليه طفل، وهذا السطح مات عليه الأماية وبنات اثنين قتلوا بهذا البيت، بس هذا رمموه طبعا. هذا كان مدمر بس رمموه.
He is telling that this area in which different houses were together and they all have been destroyed during an American airstrike last summer. He was telling me that at summer people were mostly midnight sleeping under roofs, because this is how people are sleeping here during summertime, during those hot days of summer. And midnight, this area was targeted by American strikes. One kid was killed over there. There, one lady with 3 of her children were all together killed.
Al-Baghouz is among those less known names that hit the headline after 2019, when the US and its allies claimed to have carried out their final operation against ISIS militants in this town, which resulted in the massacre of more than 60 civilians in just one air raid. Pentagon officials tactfully tried to cover it up later.
هذا الباغوز.
الباغوز عند الجبال صح؟
تحت الجبل.
تحت الجبل
هذا كله باغوز، ورايح الى اخر الجبل هذا كله باغوز. وين المعركه صارت؟ اخر معركه للامريكان والدواعش عند اخر الجبل هذا، تحت الجبل مباشر كان هناك. اخر شيء صار القصف عليهم هناك، ضربوهم بالفسفور الابيض.
فسفور ابيض.
فسفور الابيض
شايفين من هون؟
كلنا شفناه، كل العالم شافته، اللي هون كله شفناه طيران ينزل ضرب فسفور ابيض، دخان ابيض ينزل من الطيار، دخان ابيض وبالارض تصير نار. سالنا احنا قلنا شنو هذا القصف؟ يعني ما شايفينه قبل، قالوا لنا هذا الفسفور الابيض. حرقوا العالم حرق، الناس اللي نجت من القصف قالوا لنا انه العالم احترقت به حرق، حرقوا به العالم حرق.
The use of unconventional and illegal weapons by US forces after decades of military occupation in different parts of the world has now become more conventional, from Agent Orange in Vietnam to white phosphorus in Syria. The terms collateral damage or war mistakes have been used repeatedly to justify the war crimes carried out by the US Army while purportedly targeting terrorists. But there is more to the story than meets the eye. Here in eastern Syria, so many argue that ISIS is a card Washington has played, sometimes as a foe and sometimes as an ally.
يعني ما ضربوا يعني شيء مهم للدواعش، يعني الدواعش كانوا يعني بكثر النمل، يعني بكثر النمل، والطيران فوقاهم ما يضربهم ولا شيء. بس متى ضربهم وين يضرب الطرقات، يضرب المدارس، هاي المدارس كلها دمرها الطيران يعني، بس عمروها طبعا، هاي شالوا القديم وعمروا شيء جديد. يعني ما متذكر انه ضربوا الدواعش، ما ضربوا غير مدنيين وضربوا طرقات، مدارس، مصافي المي، الكهرباء، هاي اللي ضربوها. روح انت على البكمال وشوف القصف وين، شوف القصف والخراب شلون، يعني كله البنى التحتيه. ما ضربوا دواعش، ما ضربوا، على ما انه كانوا سياراتهم ارتال منين، والله ما واحد ضربهم طلقه واحده.
الامريكان يدعون هذه الروايه من طرف الامريكان، طبعا انا انقل الروايه واريد ان اسمع من حضراتكم رؤيتكم، ان حضورنا او بما انتم تسمون العدوان الامريكي بداخل سوريا محاربه للارهاب، ارهاب الدواعش. هذا ما هؤلاء يدعون. انتم ابناء المنطقه، كيف ترون؟ انتم شفتم وواجهتم الدواعش وشفتم وواجهتم الامريكان، هل تعتقدون أن هذا الحرب كان حرب واقعي؟
الأكاذيب تكشفها الحقائق. هذه ذريعة تكشفت لنا بعد أن من خلال الأحداث، فتأكد لنا أن هو الداعم هو الأمريكي من خلال مساعدته للدواعش والجرائم التي قام بها الدواعش بالمساندة الأمريكية والطيران الأمريكي بنقلهم من مكان إلى مكان، الدعم اللوجستي، السلاح، الآليات، كل التي كانوا يستعملونها بمساعدة الأمريكان. فهذه ذريعة سقطت على الواقع يعني واصطدمت بالواقع.
US has decades of experience in using militant groups against independent countries that have refused to be subservient to it, and Syria is a prime example.
Actually, even the US has been perfectly clear that it has military presence in Syria under the pretext of fighting ISIS. But of course, the reality is that ISIS has been proven time and time again to be nothing more than another proxy of the US operating between the northeast and Al-Tanf, as you mentioned, in the southeast, and Iraq. And in the northeast, for example, I think there are around 15,000 ISIS fighters and their families in holding camps that are funded by the UK, organized by the US and their Kurdish Contra proxies, who, by the way, benefit from corruption in the management of those camps. And effectively, the US is ferrying the Daesh ISIS fighters to wherever they want them to be to carry out attacks against Syrian Arab army positions, Russian positions, or Iranian allied positions.
This is the Euphrates River, a river that is the de facto border of current Syria, dividing Syria in two parts. The eastern bank of Euphrates River is under the control of American forces and their Kurdish allies, and the western bank of Euphrates River under the control of government and their allies. American bases in northern Syria are mostly located from this point towards north and northeast. The most important one is the Romanian American base located in northeast Syria. This is the last point and the closest point to the American bases from here. And this bridge has been destroyed. السلام عليكم. بس واقف هيك نتكلم. شو حدث بهذا الجسر؟
هذا الجسر كان وصلة واحدة. الطيران الأمريكي ب 2015 سدد ضربة عليه
15
قسم الجسر نصفين، ضربة أمريكية على هذا الجسر، وانقطع المعبر من أجل يعني قسم المنطقة نصفين، قسم هنا وقسم معه.
قبل ذلك كانت هذا الجسر متصل، يعني سهل الشرقي للفرات مع سهل الغربي.
أبداً، بسهولة جدا، يعني تستطيع أن تعبر وتصل إلى أماكن قامشلي والحدود السورية التركية بسهولة جدا.
Apart from the fact that eastern Syria is home to massive natural resources, the Syria-Iraq border is of high strategic importance, and the Abu Kamal border crossing is the only point currently controlled by the Syrian government and its allies in the region. This crossing connects Syria with Iran via Iraq, and if it falls in the hands of US forces, Iran would be cut off from Syria by a no-fly zone policy over the sky of this region. That's something the Israeli regime wanted to happen, but after the liberation of Abu Kamal in 2017 from ISIS, things changed dramatically.
The presence of American forces in eastern Syria is highly related to this location, Abu Kamal crossing, because by this crossing on ground, Iran is connected to Syria via Iraq, and Americans did their best to prevent Iranians from this connection, but they were not successful.
On March 24, after a drone attack by Liwa al-Ghalibun, an Iraqi resistance group killed an American military contractor and wounded several others, US forces attacked the outskirts of Deir ez-Zor city and Al-Mayadin city, killing 7 Syrian government forces.
The facilities were located near Deir in eastern Syria, and we're continuing to assess the outcome of the strikes. Initial indications are that the facilities were destroyed.
Mainstream Western media cited US officials as saying that members of Iran-linked groups have been targeted in the attack. However, our investigation reveals that all casualties were members of the Syrian Arab Army.
This is Deir ez-Zor, outskirts of Deir ez-Zor, the main city in eastern Syria. And this place is where on 24th of March 2023, American Air Forces attacked and destroyed these 2 military sheds. It seems that the magnitude of explosion has been very high and almost everything is destroyed here. Look at this sparrow burned alive. I think this shows the heat of the explosion, and this one also in this shed. The shells from the explosion has targeted all these walls, metal walls of the shed. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
كيف حالك؟
الحمد لله. خليك يا رب.
What was here? I mean, is this a military base, and what's this used for?
It's 2 shelters. One is empty, and the other is here contains cars we used in our daily jobs. It's civilians' cars.
These are the civilian cars, you mean?
Yes.
So any casualties also in that incident, in that attack?
Of course, unfortunately there's 7 people who died.
They were from which? They were Syrians or?
Of course, it's Syrians. It's my friends who was resting in this empty shelter.
So you lost your friends also?
Of course, yes, 7 of them.
7 of your friends.
Yes. And you know, my friends who died, they have children, and now they are orphans.
Can we meet the families of those killed and martyred in that incident?
Of course, it's not a problem.
Thank you. I am in one of the neighborhoods inside the city of Deir ez-Zor, and I'm supposed to meet the family of one of those who got martyred by the American airstrike just recently.
Perception of the Syrian people towards the US, just like the Iraqi and Afghani people, have changed substantially after they faced a first-hand experience of the US occupation forces in their country.
مشاركة بالقوات الإسلامية اتجاه شرق الفرات، ووقعت إن شاء الله إصابات صفوفهم، صفوف العدو إن شاء الله تكون إصابات محققة، وأنا سمعت إنه بإصابات محققة يعني أكيدة، يعني إن شاء الله بتكون إصابات واخزة للقلب مثل ما جرحوا آباء وأمهات المؤمنين، نحن بالمرصاد إن شاء الله.
These are the pictures of Muhammad Ahmad al-Shibli, a member of the Syrian Arab Army who was martyred on 24th March 2023 during an air raid by the American Air Forces. Okay.
هاي صورة الشهيد محمد على أحد القطع العسكرية أو الآليات العسكرية التي
Following the recent US aggression, Iran, in coordination with the Syrian government, retaliated forcefully, launching a series of raids at American forces in northeastern Syria. In the first round on March 24, CENTCOM confirmed that at least 10 rockets targeted US-led coalition forces at the Green Village or Al Omar oil field. In the second round, more rockets pounded the Conoco gas field in northeastern Syria, where US forces are stationed based on ground reports and local sources, taking the occupying forces by surprise. Although mainstream media reports concentrated on the first round of attacks at the Green Village, the second round on the Conoco gas field, which appeared to be more deadly, was downplayed by officials and media in the US. There was no official statement about casualties in the attack. After the outcry, US President Joe Biden emphasized that Washington does not seek conflict with the Islamic Republic of Iran.
The United States does not emphasize seek conflict with Iran.
أن البعض يقولون تبريرا لحضور لعدوان الأمريكي بسوريا يتكلمون عن حضور قوى الآخر بالمنطقة، مثلا الإيرانيين بالمنطقة.
نحن اليوم نتكلم عن الروس وعن الإيران.
نعم.
هؤلاء وجودهم نحن كشعب سوري وكدولة سورية ننظر له بأنه وجود شرعي أتى بموافقة القيادة السياسية السورية والدولة السورية بحضور القيادة السورية متمثلة بالرئيس بشار حافظ الأسد، هو الذي وافق على دخولهم ومساعدتهم لنا. أما الأمريكان ومن لف لفهم وحلفائهم لم يأتوا بالموافقة، بالعكس أتوا لكي ورفعوا شعارات إسقاط الدولة وإسقاط وذرائع كثيرة، وبأرض الواقع من خلال تجربتنا معهم لم نلمس منهم أي مساعدة.
The American military presence in Syria in the first hand was against international regulations and the UN Charter, and even without the permission of their own Congress.
التكييف القانوني الدولي لهؤلاء هم محتلون شئت أم أبيت، هم يحتلون أراضي الغير بالقوة، وهو تواجدهم غير شرعي إطلاقا وغير قانوني إطلاقا بكل الأبعاد وغير إنساني أصلا، لأنهم يعتدون على الثروات الباطنية وغير الباطنية لهذه الشعوب ونقلها ونقل خيراتها واستخدامها، استخدام هذه الأموال في شراء وتسليح الميليشيات والمنشقين وإلى ما هنالك لإيجاد خلل في هذه المنطقة ضد هذه الشعوب.
Besides ending the siege, what people should be campaigning for, and this is why it's so important to inform people of what is actually going on with the US occupation, they should be campaigning to take American troops out of Syria. Why are they here? And actually, the more that the Allied resistance targets US bases, unfortunately, the more body bags are going to be going back to the United States. No longer are just their proxies going to be sacrificed in this war to destabilize Syria, but American forces are going to start suffering the effects of the occupation, the illegal occupation of this country. And I'm sorry, but rightly so. So if the American people don't want to see their forces suffering in this country, get them out. Campaign to get them out of Syria. They shouldn't be here anyway. They are not here legally. They're not invited. They're not fighting ISIS. They're empowering ISIS. So they're only here to steal Syrian resources and to ensure the continued misery of the Syrian people.
Barely weeks after the devastating rocket attacks on the US bases, members of ISIS in Al Bukamal Desert attacked Syrian Arab army in the region in an act of desperation. Opposition to US illegal occupation in Syria has grown in the last 4 years. US forces are not welcome even on the territories controlled by Syrian Democratic Forces, facing regular protests due to several security and economic problems. People have even blocked the roads to prevent the mobilization of US forces. A civil movement against the US occupation is emerging in tribal regions of the country.
في شيء أنا سمعته بوجود حركة سلمية شعبية باسم شيوخ ضد الاحتلال الأمريكي، هل تعرفون عنها؟
نعم أكيد، ونحن جزء منها. دائما سنكون قريبا جدا سيكون هناك حراك شعبي، والآن في تواصل. العشائر هنا في دير الزور محافظة عشائرية، وسرير النهر من الشرق ومن الغرب العشائر نفسها، يعني العشيرة تنقسم يقسمها النهر، ولكن هي أبناء جلدة واحدة، أخوان وأولاد عم. وفيه تواصل من أجل أن تكون إن شاء الله سيكون هناك ساعة صفر للخلاص من هذا العدوان الغاشم إن شاء الله.
الشعب الوطني في هذه الأرض الأصيل لن يتخلى عن مبادئه، لن يتخلى عن وطنيته، وسيقاوم بالقدرة التي يستطيع أن يقاوم بها هذا الكيان المغتصب، هذه القوة الغاشمة في احتلال الأرض. لن يرتاح السوري الوطني بوجود الأمريكي على الأرض، هذا الأمريكي الغريب عن الأرض والمنطقة وبيئة المنطقة وأعراف المنطقة، وليس له إلا مصلحة الاعتداء على هذه الشعوب.
The recent conflict in March 2023 does not seem to be the last one, as tensions are on the rise in eastern Syria between the US occupation forces from one side and Syrian government forces with their allies on the other side. War has also begun to take the occupation of Syrian territories by US Army much more seriously now.